an evil potato, and some unexpected locals. A bridge that shouldn't be here, and a history of people taking a leap of faith. Welcome to Twin Falls, where even the best laid plans are tested by the canyon. I took a course I never expected, and it led me right to the edge. This stop wasn't on my Oregon Trail itinerary. I had to surrender my original plan back at Massacre Rocks. But I'm learning that sometimes change is often an invitation to something much bigger than I ever expected. To understand this canyon, it helps to look at it through the eyes of a pioneer. Imagine, after walking in the dust for months, I can hear the roar of the falls. I can see the water glistening below. It's right there, but it's 500 feet down. For the immigrants, this canyon was a cruel trick. A desert next to a river they couldn't touch. In their journals, pioneers called it a mockery. Some tried lowering wooden buckets tied with many ropes, but the sharp basalt teeth of the rock would shred the lines before the buckets hit the water. Even if a bucket made it down, hauling a few gallons of water up a 500-foot cliff was like trying to fill an ocean with a thimble. Here, the leap of faith was a requirement for survival. The pioneers had to find a way down or around. They had to pivot, just like I did. In times like this, plans can shift. It's about finding the way forward that counts. It took I.B. Perrine and the Oregon Short Line Railroad to change this place forever. Perrine, his investors, and those supportive in the community didn't wait for rain. They took a bold gamble and brought water to the soil. Perrine saw orchards where others saw sagebrush. Some called him a visionary. Others thought he was crazy to believe something could grow in this landscape. Yet, he insisted, if you want to make it happen, you have to get your hands dirty. He spearheaded a massive system of dams and canals, like the Milner and Magic, that transformed the sagebrush into a living garden. Just look at his ranch. It's a true oasis in the desert. Suddenly, the cruel trick of nature was over. They weren't lowering buckets anymore. They were building an empire. Today, this desert is known as the Magic Valley. All it needed was a drink and a few brave souls willing to take a chance on a big dream. Growing up in Chicago, it was a simple fact. To go east, you had to head south first. There was no way around that massive Great Lake. For those in the Twin Falls area, the situation was similar until the Twin Falls Jerome Toll Bridge was built in 1927. Before that, crossing the Snake River meant depending on a ferry. This bridge held the title of tallest in the U.S. until the Royal Gorge Bridge was built 2 years later. By 1974, plans emerged for a larger replacement, a project many critics at the time dubbed the bridge that shouldn't be here. The rugged basalt terrain and unpredictable weather made it an engineering nightmare. Workers were suspended by ropes at those towering heights, daring to bring a vision to life in mid-air. Despite the obstacles, the new Perrine Bridge was completed in 1976. It spans 1,500 feet and stands 486 feet above the water. It's become a world-renowned spot for base jumping, and those in that sport affectionately call it the Potato Bridge. Comparing the two, the old bridge looked like a fortress of steel. The new one is different. Viewed from below, it's a thin, fragile-looking ribbon, an engineered passage over an abyss. Then it dawned on me. Driving across, I believe those graceful supports will hold. There's a calculation to that trust, yet it feels like faith. If I can rely so completely on what I didn't make, why not the one who made the canyon? Just a few months before the Perrine Bridge project began, another man came to this canyon with a different kind of faith. In 1974, Twin Falls was the center of the world's attention. Evel Knievel stood right here, prepared to take a leap across the Snake River. Trusting in a steam-powered rocket called the Skycycle X-2. No landing gear, no margin for error, just a man in a white jumpsuit trying to conquer a void that had mocked pioneers for a century. It's been 50 years, but the ramp is still here, along with the concrete scaffold platforms that held the Skycycle in place. The stunt was for glory and fame, but a premature parachute deployment turned his flight over the canyon into a failure. Denied permission to jump the Grand Canyon, Evel simply bought his own, 425 acres on the rim of the Snake. Some said the stunt was designed to fail, but for a few minutes in September, the world held its breath as Bravado fell short. The real magic of this canyon isn't a rocket. It's the water in the form of one of my favorite sights, waterfalls. Take the Perrine Coulee. I initially thought it was named after two men, but a coulee is actually a steep, rugged ravine carved by time. It's a seasonal wonder, funneled by irrigation and snowmelt into a sudden, short-lived patch of lush life in the middle of the desert. A local pointed me to an easy path to hike behind the falls. But I found myself on a steep slope of sliding sand and rock. Feeling a sense of danger, I bailed. Later, I learned that the trail I thought I was on was a drainage wash. I eventually found the real route and was rewarded with an experience I'll never forget. The Perrine Falls is a bit of a shapeshifter. When I caught it in late spring, it was in its full, roaring glory. Twin Falls has a great network of trails, but the crown jewel is the Canyon Rim Trail. I spent the morning riding my bike right next to the edge of the gorge. Along the way, I passed the twin statue. Local folklore says they are the protectors of the bridge and river. I also spotted my first marmot and a family of yaks. The river views were spectacular, but nothing prepared me for the Shoshone Falls. They call it the Niagara of the West, and for good reason. To give you some scale, it's actually 36 feet taller than Niagara Falls. Standing there watching the 212-foot drop that on a good day turns into a thundering 1,000-foot wide wall of water, well, it's a powerful experience. But this isn't just an amazing landmark. It's a scar left from the Ice Age, carved out in a matter of weeks by the catastrophic Bonneville flood nearly 15,000 years ago. When I was there, the river was high and the sun was out, a perfect combination to create a misty rainbow. Shoshone Falls also helps power the Magic Valley. A century of hydropower and irrigation have shaped the river's flow, so the big spray that makes those magical rainbows is mostly a springtime treat I was lucky to see. The only thing better than watching that rainbow from the rim would have been seeing it from a kayak. Those paddlers at the base were living my absolute dream. Back at the Ricketts BLM campsite, right near where Evel Knievel was supposed to land, the wind was kicking up the desert dust. I watched two gliders drift and twirl through the air, and it made me think of all the leaps of faith we confront. Sometimes they feel like a free fall, but if I don't jump, I'll never know what's waiting for me on the other side. I know they call this the Magic Valley, but what I found on this unplanned visit was miraculous.